Hey there, I'm Steve, and welcome to Jamson Entertainment. And welcome to the conversation. Just before I get started, there are many ways you can help. You can like and subscribe so you never miss a conversation. But most importantly, please share this video. Get the word out there to community. We can talk about all the things that we love. Today on Throwback Thursday, we're looking at Kill Bill Volume 1. Starring Uma Thurman, Lucy Liu, Vivica A. Fox, Daryl Hannah, David Carradine, Michael Madsen, Julie Dreyfus, Chiaki Kyoriyama, Shinichi Chiba, Chia Hui Liu, Michael Parks, Michael Bowen, Kenji Oba, and Yuki Kazamatsuri. Sorry if I mispronounced any of those names. Lady Snowblood most certainly inspired this movie, but there's probably about 20 other movies that inspired this one as well. I think it's definitely safe to say that Lady Snowblood is the main inspiration. I mean, it ends with the theme song. I'm getting ahead of myself though. So this is another revenge story. It opens up with, I'm not going to say the character's name because this movie doesn't say the character's name. I'm going to give two hints that are going to be kind of vague. One, when this character is flying to Tokyo, they play, well, how vague do I want to be? I can outright say the name of the song, or I can just say they play a classical song that is based off a flying insect. The other is how she's dressed for the second half of the film. But this is also paying homage to Bruce Lee films, specifically Game of Death. Wow, I completely got sidetracked when I said it starts out. It starts out with the first person she's getting revenge on. Vernita Green, or also known as Copperhead. Actually, I can put a name to Uma Thurman's character. Not her actual name, but her code name, Black Mamba. She shows up at Copperhead's house, and Copperhead's caught off guard, naturally. So, flashback real quick. Black Mamba was in El Paso, Texas, and she was ready to be married. And Bill and his Deadly Viper Assassin Squad. And as I was watching this, at least in this one, Bill and the Deadly Viper Assassin Squad are treated like the anti-Charlie's Angels. Now, there's more than 3 of them. But Bill's face is not shown in the first film, and so you only hear him. And I've never watched Charlie's Angels, but I think you've seen like Charlie's hands and maybe his torso or whatever in the show. This is kind of like the evil version of Charlie's Angels. It's pretty hilarious. It actually wouldn't surprise me if that's another thing that inspired Quentin Tarantino for this movie. Like, he was sitting around one day and was like, what if I combined Lady Snowblood and Charlie's Angels? But Charlie's Angels are evil. So Black Mamba and Copperhead have an awesome fight. All the fights in here are choreographed beautifully. More inspiration from Lady Snowblood, other than just the revenge story, is, and I got off track, but I'll get back to it right after this thought. At least for the parts that are in Japan, the fight scenes there, and even then, it's inconsistent. But for the most part, and shame on me for not mentioning this in the last review, the over-the-top method of how these fights are done. Meaning, when a limb gets chopped off or someone gets cut on like the stomach or something, blood just squirts everywhere. But I did say it's inconsistent. When Black Mamba gets cut, she doesn't have blood squirting all over the place. It's only the henchmen. And even then, and the only explanation I can come up with why the blood splatter is inconsistent is within this entire scene, from beginning to end, Quentin Tarantino goes through a few different genres of Japanese and Chinese films, because to my knowledge, wire work, all the flying around and fighting on beams and stuff like that, is kung fu films, to my knowledge. I have seen quite a few Japanese samurai films in the last few years. None of them had the wire work. I have seen some Chinese films, I mean, they were Bruce Lee ones. Ones I haven't reviewed yet have been Chinese kung fu films, and they have wire work. I don't know if Japanese films have wire work. So he's combining 2 different movie styles, which is awesome. Now, let me get back to El Paso. Black Mamba is set to get married. She's leaving her life as an assassin behind. And Bill and his kill squad show up. Now, we get the abridged version in this volume. The second volume, you'll get the whole story, and we'll go over that then. But long story short, the entire marriage party gets killed, and presumably Black Mamba. And on top of all that, Black Mamba is also pregnant. And the last thing she says to Bill before he shoots her on the head, which, yes, there are certain ones that you can survive, and she does. She tells Bill that the baby is his. And that's probably what makes him miss, quote unquote. It's not explicit if he does it on purpose or if the news that the baby is his makes him lose concentration enough for him to not get a kill shot. The shot to the head does put her in a coma for 4.5 years. And horrible things happen to her while she's in a coma. We'll just leave it at that. Once she wakes up, she actually gets revenge on what happened to her relatively quickly, and it's hilarious. And then she's on her way to revenge. Now, they don't give a backstory to Copperhead for some reason, and Tarantino actually tells the story out of order for the most part. He opens up with basically the end of the movie, but it doesn't go back to it. At least not in this volume. I think he starts the second film with that one, I can't remember. But it shows the first fight scene, then it flashes back to the wedding massacre, to her being in a coma, to her waking up. Actually, I'll stop there with the storyline, because this movie is amazing. It's got terrific writing. Of course, this is Quentin Tarantino. He hasn't had a bad movie yet. He's had okay movies, and we'll get to those at some point. Great action. He's always done great action, and like this one, he pulled out all the stops for it, and he does it again for the next one. The music is amazing, and also shame on me for not mentioning that in Lady Snowblood review. Both of them, amazing music. The jokes, you gotta have dark humor, but the jokes are great. And everyone is acting amazing. You absolutely believe that this could have happened in real life, and Quentin Tarantino is just recounting the tale for you. Now, I can get nitpicky and say that the scenes when she's flying in an airplane, it's painfully obvious that it's a model plane flying over a model city. That's really part of the charm. So I'm not going to count that as a negative. Tarantino likes to put all the movies that he loves into his movies in some way, shape, or form. And like I said, it's part of the charm. If you couldn't tell by the thumbnail and by the end of this review that I love this movie, I absolutely love this movie. I currently have it on Blu-ray. I need to upgrade it to 4K, and I highly recommend that you do get this on 4K. Those are my thoughts on Kill Bill Volume 1. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and live your imagination.